Hello my fellow hunters, these are my top 10 favourite monsters from Iceborne. Leave your favourites down in the comments, and let's begin with number 10. Coral Puke. A brand new subspecies we receive in Iceborne that has adapted to the Coral Highlands. Its body now stockpiles water instead of poison, which allows it to shoot high pressure water beams from its mouth and tail. One of the better designed subspecies from most of the other subspecies that we received, and also one of the better war monsters that was added to the game. I love Coral Puke. Its design just matches the corals perfectly, and its fight is actually quite fun. Although he is probably one of the few monsters that you can learn longsword on because his moves are easy telegraphed and have a lot of wind-ups. I still love regular Puke from base world. I still think he's much better than that stupid dopey looking Dodogama. And on that note, let's move on to number 9. Barioth. First introduced in Monster Hunter Tri, this ice-tusked wyvern rules the Hoarfrost Reach. Its large amber tusks can pierce the hide of any monster, and it can create powerful ice tornadoes with its breath. A flying wyvern that can latch onto any icy wall and pounce on any unexpecting hunters. Barioth is one of my favourite monsters to test my weapon sets on because Barioth is a very agile monster, and it's rewarding to break one of his front claws and then proceed to trip him over and over, which opens up a lot of windows for you to punish him. I love Barioth's design since it's based off the saber-toothed tiger, and Iceborne was the game that I got the chance to fight Barioth for the first time. For some hunters he was a wall when Iceborne first came out, but for me he's one of my most favourite fights. And again, like I said before, he is my monster that I test my sets on. So, let's move on to number 8. Naga Cougar, the flagship of Monster Hunter 3D Unite, makes its return in Iceborne. It dominates everything within its habitat thanks to its razor sharp cut wings and also a tail that shoots razor sharp spikes with deadly precision, capable of causing bleed. I first fought Naga Cougar in Generations, and I think he has the best roar and also the best battle theme in the series. Naga Cougar is a beloved monster by many, and having it in Iceborne was a massive treat. It's just a shame we didn't get its subspecies or rare species, just like how Barioth got a variant and how Brute is in the game. I still love Naga Cougar. Its design is awesome since it's based off a panther. Also, when he gets enraged his eyes glow red, and when you see it at night time it just looks really intimidating. Another reason why I love Naga Cougar because he is a nocturnal hunter. The only reason Naga Cougar is number 8 on this list is because, for me at least, in Iceborne he's a bit too easy when you get to like halfway point. But he's still here because he's my first fight in Generations, and Naga Cougar taught me how to play the game better, and that's why I still love him, is why he's still here on this list. So let's move on to number 7. Falconer, the flagship of Iceborne, an elder dragon that controls the ice element and can freeze all in its path. Falconer is the first elder dragon that has the ice element as its main element, and a unique ability to make ice armor cover its whole body. Its design is quite elegant compared to the other elder dragons. However, her fight is quite fun, but can be annoying at times, especially when she uses her tail. Falconer is my preferred elder dragon to farm in the Ganglands because if you punish her enough, she will drop a lot of materials for augments. Falconer is an awesome flagship and it recently received an up-tempered form not long ago, but her base fight, she uses a lot of breath attacks that can hinder your stamina. She can also use a tail against you to try and kill you. Here's a quick note for the tail. Do not cut it off, because if you do, she will cover it with ice, treating it as a prosthetic, so there's probably no point to try and get it off in the first place. Her Octempered form, however, gained a lot of AoE attacks. There's one attack in particular where she does like a stance, and a crown appears on top of her head. Kinda makes sense since she's the queen of Iceborne. The perfect monster to end Iceborne with. Just like up-tempered Megagante from Base World. So, let's move on to number 6. Brute Tigrex, a more aggressive subspecies than regular Tigrex that lives in harsh environments. Due to it living in harsh environments with other large monsters, its roar has been developed more and his lungs have expanded, which makes his roar a lot louder. He has also developed a new attack where he rotates himself around shooting a roar beam per se. This roar beam can be very devastating to hunters. It can send you on your ass or cut you if you're not careful. It can be blocked and Rocksteady can protect you, but you'll still take a lot of damage. It's one of his new moves and it's one of the most best moves that he's had in a long time. I first fought Brute Tigrex in 4 Ultimate, and in that game it was a bit harder, but in Iceborne, easily one of the most best fights, hands down, and one of the most best subspecies. You can unlock him if you get your Rotten Veil region up to level 6, and if you reach Master Rank 70. After that, you can unlock him in investigations and also unlock tempered versions of him. He's not as fast as Tigrex because he roars a lot, but he just hits a lot harder, especially with that beam of his as well. His armor is also very good. It was meta for a time when Iceborne was first released. It's still used to this day. He's one of the early endgame monsters that you can farm before you reach, say, Megagante and Rajang and that kind of stuff. Overall, he's one of my most favourite subspecies in this game, and hands down one of the best fights. It's just more fun than most things in this game. And also, you have to farm him at some point because his materials are actually used for augments. But again, I just love Brute Tigrex. His design is awesome. A dark brown with stripes and just a meaner Tigrex, really. Just a shame we didn't get Molten Tigrex, so that would have been fun. Okay, so let's move on to number 5. Stygian Synoga. A subspecies of Synoga that has a symbolic relationship with dragon bugs instead of thunder bugs, which allows it to store and discharge dragon element. A unique subspecies with a unique colour scheme, black and white with a tint of red when it's charged up. It looks fucking badass. Much better than regular Synoga. He's also got a lot of new moves as well that he didn't have in the older games. He's got a new ultimate move. When he releases a wave of dragon element, he does his animation where he literally flies and spins to your face, and if you're not careful, it's a one shot. When Stygian first came out, he gave me a lot of issues, but over time I learned his moveset, and I gotta thank him for it. He made me a better hunter. His armor and weapons are actually quite good as well, much better than a regular Sinoga. Maybe not to dragon element, but they are still badass looking. Although you will probably need the fights to win Sinoga, because this material in the Ganglands unlocks extra slots in your augments. Best subspecies in this game by far, and there's a reason why he's number 5 on this list. So, let's move on to number 4. Ruiner Megagante. A battle-hardened variant, the flagship of Monster Hunter World, this variant is just badass. Megagante has now got metallic spikes instead of the regular black spikes. These spikes are quite hard to break, but once you do break them, you can trip him. Also, did you know that when Megagante disposes of his spikes, they are actually alive? Yep. The spikes that you break off are baby Megagantes. You see, when Megagante absorbs enough bioenergy, he reproduces offspring into the spikes. So when that Megagante dies, a new Megagante will be born from those spikes. Ruiner Megagante is one of the best elder dragons in this game, period. He was one of my favourites from base world, but ever since more monsters came out, he's dropped down the list. Hence why he's here. I still love Megagante, I love his design, I love his ecology, and Megagante is more of a, say, anti-hero than a villain, I guess? Because in the story, he helps you take down Ishvalda. I mean, yeah, you did all the work, but he finished it off. But he was on the hunt rate since the beginning of Iceborne, hence why he wasn't present until Master Rank 100. But his armor and weapons, however, are quite decent, especially when you just reached Master Rank 100. This was before Raging Brachydios was a thing. He's still one of my all-time favourite Elder Dragons. He's got a lot of lead attacks with his variant, so you got to manage your health frequently when it comes to Megagante. But I still love his fight is amazing. The only sad thing is because it's now become an event where you farm stream stones, it's like, I mean, yeah, you've learnt the monster and now you beat him to death, because Merg has got easy trips. All you have to do is break one of his spikes on his legs and he trips over. But those spikes grow back over time. He's also got a few new moves as well when it comes to this variant. He's now got a new pin. When he roars and goes into the sky, he comes directly down on your face. And then he does his animation where he extends his arms. It cries, "Come at me, bro." Now, let's move on to number 3. Raging Brachydios, a variant of Brachydios that has bonded with the Super Slime, surviving the bonding process, thus becoming bigger and stronger. Raging Brachydios is the best variant and also one of the most best monsters in the series. He was first introduced in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and in that game he is one of the hardest monsters to fight. I soloed him on for ultimate, and he was very hard to the fact I nearly failed the quest about 3 or 4 times. In world, he's a bit easier, but he's still hard and fun. Also, his weapons and armor are really good. Very high raw and high sharpness, and also very good blast element. Raging Brachydios coming to Iceborne changed up the meta drastically. When he first came out, all the meta changed to either Teostra and Brachy or just pure Brachy. His weapons were the higher raw at the time, but they were pretty much toe to toe with Saphigeo weapons. And also, his fight is just unique in Iceborne. Since in the final phase, he will literally block off the exits of the area so he can't run away. So you have to fight him mano a mano. Which makes sense because Brachydios is a boxing monster. I also love his theme as well. His theme is just fantastic. His old theme, not the new one. The original theme that Brachydios has. That theme is still much better than what he got in Iceborne, with the whole chanting thing. Also, a lot of people still struggle with Raging Brachydios, which is fair enough because he hits really hard. But again, he's like regular Brachydios. Once you learn him, he becomes an easy monster. And again, if you want to experience Raging Brachy in the older games, go play Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. It is a wild ride. So, let's move on to number 2. Fatalis, the first Black Dragon, and the endgame boss on Monster Hunter 1. Fatalis is the top of the food chain. All living things fear Fatalis, even other Black Dragons. Di Morales will go to the bottom of the ocean to avoid Fatalis. Alaction will flee from Fatalis. The guild heavily fear Fatalis because Fatalis took down the Castle Shrade many years ago due to the Dragon War. Ever since then, the guild have been really strict about hunting, because if hunters overhunt monsters, it will drastically affect the ecosystem, and Fatalis will catch wind and then take its wrath on all life. Hence why in the special assignment they say that Fatalis wipes out all life in a single night. He is the strongest monster in the franchise. Nothing else comes close to him. He was the 5th and final update for Iceborne, and he is the hardest fight in Iceborne by far. harder than Electron. Fatalis has been changed a lot since his last appearance, which was in Generations Ultimate. In Iceborne, they sped him up a bit and gave him a few new moves. Fatalis cannot be stunned whatsoever, so don't bother bringing KO at all because it won't work. But he can still be slapped and be paralyzed, but it takes a bit of time. So, when you fight Fatalis, your main goal is to try and get his horn break. Because if you break its horn, you will decrease its firepower when it comes to the third phase. So for the first and second phase, you will be aiming for the head most of the time. Best weapons I can think of are best for Fatalis in my experience is hammer, charge blade, longsword and dual blades. So let's talk about his moves. One of his new moves is a fire cone, which he only does is if you stand in front of him by 10 feet. This way he brings his head down and positions himself with a massive fire breath that covers the whole field. If you're caught in this, you will die, no matter what. Rocksteady won't save you, Temporal won't save you, Fireproof Mantle won't save you either. But if you position yourself correctly, you can get to his head, because when he does his fire breath, his head is heavily exposed for about a good 10 seconds, which allows you to get a decent amount of damage on his head. A lot of his old moves return as well, as in the snag and drag, which is a very annoying move. And if you're not careful, it can just run you over, because Fatalis hits like a fucking truck. Also, he's got a new pin. When you get caught in this pin, where he just like slams to the ground, he will follow up on you with either a fireball or a bite. He's also got a new ultimate move as well, which you've probably already seen from the trailers. But after each phase or a certain damage threshold is met, he will fire up into the air and burn the entire arena. If you don't make it to a save point in time, you will die, but from what I've seen, you can survive it if you time it right with a max potion, but honestly it's a lot safer just to run to the save zone, because Fatalis does not mess around. His fight is really difficult, even for experienced players. He is my second favourite fight in this game. Fatalis' armour and weapons are also the best equipment in the game. They've gave him as a unique bonus, a 2-piece bonus, which allows you to increase the cap of a skill, and a 4-piece bonus, with which it gives you razor sharp and also gives you 100% stamina and health from the start of the quest. So you won't even need health boost anymore. His equipment has defied the meta as the final monster. Continuing on about the head break. If you get the first head break before the third phase, you will nerf his flame breath in the third phase. Because when you hit the third phase, his flames become purple when his body starts to glow. At that point, every single fire move he does will one-shot you if the horn isn't broken. He also got another new move. We call it the 360, where he spins around a 360 with a powerful fire breath. If you're caught in this, you're 9 out of times gonna caught or just leave on 1 HP. To negate this, you have to get this second horn break to decrease its power by 30%, I believe. Honestly, he's easy to learn if you observe his moveset, but honestly, even after learning it, it's still very difficult. Hence why I love this fight so much, because it actually makes you work for it. You have to work for the kill on Fatalis, which makes sense because he is the hardest monster in the franchise and in the game. So, and I've been waiting a long time to fight him again, because last time I fought him was in Generations Ultimate, and he was a bit slow in that game, and his equipment was not as good. But my god, his theme, they redid his theme, it sounds amazing. Also, all the new lore invocations as well, where Fatalis burns hunters to his chest and melts down their armor into his scales. That has now been proven. Also, a fun fact, the Electron that you fight in Dawn's Triumph is a weakened Electron that fought the Fatalis and lost, hence why he's nerfed. Also, I'm kinda glad Fatalis was added because Fatalis was needed. People were moaning about Electron, so Fatalis had to come in and step up further. So yeah, Fatalis is number 2. Now, for number 1. Electron, the blazing black dragon, the endgame boss of Monster to Try. Electron is hands down the best fight in Iceborne, my favourite monster of all time. Finally makes his appearance in World, after being delayed by the coronavirus, but when he finally arrived, I instantly fell in love with him again. I never fought Electron in the older games, so Iceborne was my chance to fight him. And my god, I love him. His design is just fucking awesome. He looks really badass in the World Edition compared to the older games. Capcom changed him up a bit for Iceborne. He can now change form at will. He's got 3 forms: Fire active, Ice active, and his true form, Dragon active. He controls all the elements, even water. When he's in Fire active, as it suggests, he uses a lot of range of fire attacks, some brand new. When it comes to Ice active, he uses both ice and water attacks. When he's in Dragon active, however, he can use both. When Electron first came out, there was a massive stir in the Monster Hunter community, because people said that Electron was too hard. I mean, yeah, he is hard to a point, but if you listen to the game, it tells you how to defeat Electron. You see, Electron's gimmick is that it's elemental unstable, so you have to take elemental weapons against him. For Fire active, you need to take Ice, which is his biggest weakness. For Ice active, you need to take Fire, same again. And that's all you need to take. You don't need to take any other element, and also don't bring any blast weapons. So yeah, you need elemental weapons for Electron, because if you do enough elemental damage to him, you will trip him and weaken him. I'll touch on about that later on. So yeah, in the Monster Hunter community, Electron caused a bit of a stir, because people were saying, oh, he's too hard, they should nerf him. But seriously, he is a black dragon, he is supposed to be hard. Try find him in the older games. Stop whining, get good! Electron's moveset has changed quite a bit since Monster Hunter Tri. He's now become more faster, and he's got a large range of new attacks. And also a new pin. When he gets up on his hind legs and comes down, if you're caught in his pin, you'll be sent flying, and if you're not careful, he will follow up with an electric attack which can caught you. Also, when you're on his head trying to flinch him, when he starts charging his head, get off immediately because it runs right through your Rocksteady and Temporal. He also has a brand new electric type attack, where he shoots a stream of lightning across the floor in rows. You can easily avoid this if you dodge at the right time, or if you roll. If you're caught, you'll be sent flying. And if you're not careful, he can combo on you. You can follow up with a fiery attack, you can blow up with Dragon Element in your face, or anything like that. So, about getting the elemental trips. You need to get those trips to weaken his new ultimate attack, which is called Eschaton Judgment. Eschaton Judgment is a brand new ultimate move that Electron never had. What it does is charges all of his elements, and at once he releases it, thus vaporizing everything in the arena. If you're not careful, he will kill you within a matter of seconds. But if you weaken his state by getting at least 2 or 3 elemental trips, you'll weaken it by a lot and you'll survive. Even just suppressing him once, he can live on 1 HP. Also, quick note, it is essential that you get the home break as quick as possible, because if you do not get the home break, when he does his Eschaton Judgment, he will change element. So say like, if he was fighting you in the fire active, but he never got his home break. After his Eschaton Judgment, he will turn into ice active. And if you're using an ice weapon, it won't work on him, he's immune. So it's essential, when he goes Dragon active for the first time in this fight, make sure you get those home broke, because if you don't, you will struggle. Honestly, Electron is easy to learn when it comes to his moveset, and it's so rewarding when you punish him as well, because he's got a few openings in his attacks. Because Electron has got a lot of recovery animations. It takes a few seconds to recharge some of his attacks. Like, there's a new attack that he does, is the Ice Breath, which he freezes in your direction. You can easily get out of the way of this and just run to his head and do damage. There's also another move that you can counter. When he's flying and he decides to do an Ice Breath that shoots down to the floor, you can clutch him and do elemental damage that way, which is a great opening. He also stands in that Ice Breath for about 2-3 seconds, which gives you more time for damage. Overall, Electron is my most favourite monster. He has been ever since I first seen him. Although I did not fight him until Iceborne, but I am planning to fight him in Generations Ultimate, when I unlock him. Also, I love the new theme that they gave him. It just sounds badass, which it has to come with Electron, because Electron is a badass monster, so it has a badass theme to come with it. Also, his weapons and armor. His armor is not bad, because of the gimmick that they gave it, where if you've got high resistances you get elemental attack, but compared to Safi it's not as great. His weapons, however, high dragon element, raw and purple sharpness. Electron's longsword is hands down the best elemental longsword, and also the best looking. His other weapons are quite good as well. His greatsword is good, his charge blade's okay, his hammer is good, and so is his hunting horn. But overall, other monsters outclass him when it comes to weapons and armor, but to me, Electron is still my most favourite and always will be. So yeah, I now hunt Electron for fun because I love his fight so much. It's just the best fight in this game. Also, just to show off a bit, I've killed Electron over 120 times, even though I already had his armor and weapons about the 3rd or 4th time I killed him. Just shows you how much I love him. He is hands down the best designed monster in Iceborne when it comes to his mechanic and also his fights. He's also very easy to learn. Like I said before, he has a lot of openings in his attacks which you can punish him with. But when it comes to the clutch claw, on Electron, it's just crap. Because he eats through you rocksteady and temporal like it's nothing. So half the time I don't even bother doing the clutch claw unless I see a good opening. And again, he's one of those monsters that if you see the opening and you get the opening, you can punish him massively, which is very rewarding against a monster like Electron. I just wish he was a little bit harder, like if he came out with a tempered form. Because, let's be real here, Electron should not have been nerfed when it comes to Dawn's Triumph. Yeah, a lot of people bitched and moaned because Electron was too hard. Please nerf him, sign this petition to nerf him. How about get the fuck out? Get good, you motherfucker. So yeah, I'm a bit annoyed about Electron got nerfed for Dawn's Triumph. It should have been harder. It should have been a true gatekeeper for Fatalis. But it is what it is. A lot of people got their nerf Electron, even though they still struggle with him. I don't know why. Because the game literally tells you how to fucking defeat him. But either way, some people struggle with him, some people don't. That's how it's always been with Monster Hunter. If it's not your monster, it's someone else's monster. Like, I still struggle with some monsters from back in the older games, but in Iceborne, I don't really struggle with much, apart from Fatalis. But that's a given because Fatalis is the hardest monster in the game. But for Monster Hunter Rise, I hope Electron comes back. Because again, he's my favourite monster. I want him to come back. So, these are my top 10 favourite monsters from Iceborne. And Iceborne was my first Monster Hunter game, so this is why this is the list. I might do a future list down the line once I get content for Generations Ultimate and also Monster Hunter Rise. But until then, I will catch you at the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and of course, happy hunting!